Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Dorset Council's Cabinet meeting today, 7th of December. My name is Councillor Spencer Flower. I'm leader of council and I'm chairing the meeting today. We're going to do a bit of a roll call. Before I do that, I wanted just to say at the moment virtual committee meetings are continuing for today's Cabinet meeting, where a decision is required. The appropriate portfolio holder will make the decision after taking due account of the views expressed by the wider Cabinet membership. So I'm going to do a quick roll call of the Cabinet. Peter Wharf, who's Vice Chairman, Ray Bryan, Graham Carr-Jones, Tony Ferrari, Jill Haynes, Laura Miller, Andrew Parry, Gary Suttle and David Walsh. And as they get involved in the meeting, they'll introduce themselves and say what their portfolio responsibilities are. Officers in attendance today: Matt Prosser, Chief Exec, Aidan Dunn, Executive Director, John Selgren, Executive Director, Teresa Levy, Executive Director, Vivian Broadhurst, Executive Director, Jonathan Mayer, David McIntosh, Kate Critchell, Senior Democratic Services Officer, and our producers today, Judy Saunders and Pauline Weld. And we've got other report authors with us today, should members need to call on their support. Apologies, there aren't any apologies today, are there, Kate?
No, Chairman, no apologies.
Declarations of interest? Anyone got any declarations of interest? No? Okay. Public participation, we've only got one public speaker today, Mike Allen. He's asking some questions about the local plan. I'm going to invite Matt Prosser to read there's two questions, and after each question, the portfolio holder, David Walsh, will come in and give a response. So Matt, over to you.
Good morning. Thank you, Councillor Flower. So question one from Mike Allen: local plan, effective community engagement. The new Secretary of State for Levelling Up Housing and Communities, appearing before the Housing, Communities and Local Government Select Committee recently, spoke of future planning priorities: net zero, thoughtful local plans which have maximum community buy-in, a role for the community ultimately in determining what is right. The MPPF Para 16 specifies that plans should be shaped by early, proportionate and effective engagement between plan makers and communities. Thousands of people in Dorset responded to the draft local plan. The majority in disagreement, a sample of 3,000 responses shows 75% disagreement. Many are concerned about housing not being required to be net zero in use. Many don't buy into the need to build so many houses on greenfield sites near where they live. Many are concerned that the new homes won't be truly affordable for those on lower wages. What assurance can the Cabinet offer local plan respondents that their concerns will really shape the next draft of the plan, making the consultation truly effective? Examples would be welcome if the next iteration of the plan might change as a result of effective community engagement.
Thank you very much, Matt. David, can I invite you to respond, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Councillor David Walsh, Portfolio Holder for Planning. Thank you, Mr. Allen, for your question. We did have a very good response to the local plan consultation, and the comments made will be vital in shaping the plan in future. Alongside them, however, we also need to consider the importance of providing enough housing to meet the needs of the economy and community in future, and doing so within the environmental and viability constraints that exist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Matt, would you like to read the second question then, please?
Yes, I can. Thank you. So question number 2, out-of-date housing targets and building in the Greenbelt. The new Secretary of State for Levelling Up Housing and Communities has suggested recently at a parliamentary committee that there is leeway for local authorities in meeting government housing targets when constraints such as AONB and Greenbelt are present, and that the planning inspectorate should show more reasonableness in this. He thought also that the underlying assumptions in the housing targets are probably out of date. Despite its population actually falling recently, ONS 2018-19, BCP currently has an out-of-date and excessive government housing target of over 2,700 homes per year. Constrained by the sea and its Greenbelt, BCP may require Dorset Council to help by planning thousands of those homes in their area instead. Would it not be more reasonable to think that both Dorset and BCP are constrained and both should accept the offer of leeway in their housing targets so that no new estates need to be built in the Greenbelt or other protected land?
Thank you very much, Matt. David, response, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you very much for the question, because it gives me the opportunity to answer a very important point. Firstly, should anything in government policy around housing numbers change during the preparation of the plan, we will be able to take that into account and make changes before it is adopted. In the meantime, We are working closely with BCP Council as they consider the appropriate level of housing for their area and whether they are likely to have an unmet need. We will take account of their latest evidence in preparing our plan. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, David. Well, that's all of the public participation today. So we'll move on now to questions from members, and today there aren't any. So we can move swiftly on to the forward plan. And this is here for us, for colleagues to note. I thought there was a fairly light agenda in January. It's a lot heavier than I imagined. There's about 7 or 8, 9 items on there, including the very, very important one, which is the budget recommendations to full council in February. But colleagues, are you happy to, there is one item, by the way, that we have removed, which was the Dorset Highway skip policy, because it's probably more operational than it is, and it will go to place and resources overview with the delegated decision at some point. So we don't need to have it on our schedule of work. So colleagues, you've got the forward plan, you've had a look at it. Happy to accept it as it is?
Happy.
Agreed?
Accept.
Thank you very much. Move on to agenda item 6, the SEND capital strategy and the expansion of Bowcroft School. And I'm going to hand over to Councillor Andrew Parry. Andrew.
Good morning. I'm Councillor Andrew Parry, Cabinet Member responsible for children, education, skills and early health. Cabinet will recall back in July a recommendation that we would go to a consultation for the use of the former Wimborne First School site to become a second additional site for Bowcroft, the special school, which is well known to us as a council and is well supported. And delivers an excellent special educational needs and disability support for our children and young people. They wanted to expand with post-16 provision, and like many great ideas, the simplicity of this one really makes it very workable, which was that they would move their post-16 provision into the former Wimborne First School site, and that would provide a capacity for up to 80 young people to continue their education, which we would welcome. Could I, Chairman, could I take the opportunity, please, to thank the warm words of support I have received from the ward councillors and indeed Michael Tomlinson MP, both expressed their interest and support for this additional provision.
Yes, please do so.
The report makes very clear that the overwhelming response in the consultation, and it has been an overwhelming response, is in favour of this. And there are many warm words. But one of the simplest lines I've read anywhere was that one Dorset resident wrote, "A brilliant idea and a wonderful use of the first school." And I think that really does reflect the feeling that we have seen time and time again in this. So the recommendation is to agree and confirm that from September 2022, Bowcroft Special School will increase its funding capacity by an additional 80 places. Very happy to take questions on this, both from Cabinet and from colleagues. But I hope that we will be united in our support.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Before I open it up to the Cabinet for debate, are there any non-executive colleagues wishing to ask a question or comment on this item? You've got, I don't see any RTSs in the chat bar, although at the moment I've just let the producers know mine's frozen, but we'll see how we get on with it. Oh, it's come back now. Tony Ferrari, just seen it. We'll go open to the Cabinet now. Thank you. Tony.
Thank you. I wonder if Councillor Parry could give us some context of how this fits into the overall Dorset's overall strategic investment plan in this sector. Wonder if you could give us some background to that. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you from the perspective of your property and assets portfolio, where I know you've been working incredibly hard with us to deliver this plan. This forms part of the £37.5 SEND sufficiency strategy that we've committed to as part of our bold and ambitious plans to transform children's services and to do everything we can possibly do to help children and young people thrive in Dorset. And I'm delighted that this is the second part of delivery of our plan in this area, following on from Coombe House School, which is sited up in the former St Mary's School site in Shaftesbury. And we know there is more to follow, and that's the wonderful thing about this journey. We are proving that we are delivering and making good on our promises.
Thank you thanks for the question, Tony. Thank you very much for the response, Andrew. Cabinet colleagues, anyone else wish to comment on this really exciting extension to the work we're doing around, as Andrew rightly says, around the SEND strategy? Any other comments, or are you happy? Are you willing to express a minded support for what Andrew's put before us, which is the decision around the Bowcroft Special School increasing its funded capacity. Are we happy to support that?
Agreed.
Happy to support.
You have a minded decision, Andrew.
Wonderful. So the minded to is we're minded to agree and confirm that from September 22, Bowcroft Special School will increase its funded capacity by an additional 80 places, as for the recommendation of the reasons set out below.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Really good decision and such an exciting part of what we're trying to achieve. Let's move on then to agenda item 7, the annual adoption report, and it's still you.
Thank you. Yes, I have a number of items on the agenda today, and the annual Aspire adoption report, which I know you will see is co-authored by Sarah Jane Smedmore and Michelle Wicking. Teresa is with us as well to take us through this report. Could I just say that advise Cabinet that this is, of course, a joint service provision with BCP Council. It carries a budget of £2.1 million annually, and there is a split in that funding cost between 59% BCP and 41% to Dorset. Please be mindful that the report was written by a previous manager, so it is delivered by Michelle and Sarah Jane, and therefore we will endeavour to answer any questions raised. But of course, one of the things that is highlighted in the report was an overspend in a previous year of £160,000, which the new manager has got a firm grip of. I'm happy to report, and we're seeing some real good progress in the financial stability of Aspire. Could I also take time to say that this is, of course, across the backdrop of COVID, and that has been incredibly challenging for all our services and all our staff and everybody else. But great work has continued in the area of permanency and adoption and special guardianship orders, which we don't often highlight, but are a significant part of the work there. So in thanking everyone, I would also like to thank, of course, Nick Adams-King, who as chair of the foster panel is, how can I put it, just boundless energy in the area of trying to do everything he possibly can to give children and young people the very best of permanency and support in their new forever home settings, whatever those may be. So great thanks to Nick and to everybody at Aspire. But I will ask Teresa and Sarah Jane to comment.
Please, Teresa.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Cabinet, for considering the paper today. It's a requirement for us to bring you a report annually about our adoption agency, and we're very pleased to be able to report that actually the agency has continued to deliver very effectively throughout the last year. We know that it's been incredibly difficult. Some of the detail of what that looks like on the ground is that foster carers who have been caring for tiny children, often needing to transition them into their adoptive family during difficult times of social distancing, all of those kind of additional challenges. But families have continued to work together very well to do that. Our courts have also been incredibly supportive, and we haven't experienced the same level of court backlog that other people around the country have because of working more effectively, because of being able to move to digital options more quickly than others. It is a difficult area of work, as many people will appreciate, and we have a position which says that all children potentially could be adopted. We don't have an age limit for that. We don't have a needs limit for that. And we've seen some real achievements in that agency, delivering adoption to sometimes much older children, sometimes children with really complex needs. It is a really good piece of partnership work with Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council. We lean heavily into that to be able to make sure that that support works really well. But it's very much a kind of good report here for you. And if there's any issues or questions on any of the detail, I know Sarah Jane, who's the lead officer for us, is present to be able to answer any of that detail.
Thank you very much, Teresa. What I'll do at this point, I think I'll open it up to any non-executive members of the council who wish to ask a question or comment before I open up to the Cabinet. So I don't see any RTSs in the chat bar. I don't wait too long, because normally if people are excited about something they want, they'll put the RTS in already. So I'm going to assume there aren't any. We're going to move on to the Cabinet now. Cabinet colleagues, any comments around this particular report? It all seems pretty straightforward and good progress, really good progress, and we should all be very proud of what you've achieved here. I think there's massive opportunities for us in Dorset to do some really good stuff for the young people that need our support. So colleagues, there's no decision today. We just need to note to this report. Can we note it, please?
Noted.
Right. Thank you very much. Now then, Andrew, This is the big one today. Agenda item 8, the Ofsted feedback.
I couldn't be more proud to bring this excellent piece of news to Cabinet. As we know, it has been quite a journey for children's services across Dorset in the last few years, in the transitions from Dorset County Council to the new Dorset Council, through our Blueprint for Change model, the backdrop of the pandemic, which we know has been very tough on everybody across the Dorset area, and of course we then had the very rigorous Ofsted inspection, the outcome of which was really the best possible news we could have hoped to have got, and even had a cherry on top of the cake for us. So the judgment grading was that the experience and progress of children who need help and protection was graded as good. The experience and progress of children in care and care leavers was graded as good. The impact of leaders on social work practice with children and families was graded as outstanding. And that really is something we can be very proud of. And our overall effectiveness was good. The Ofsted report was generous in its comments to us. And in particular, I take note of what we now in the Children's Services really see as our mantra, which is good work is expected, delivered and celebrated. We've always been bold and ambitious for our children. We want them to thrive and we want them to succeed. And we've been very clear about that. And what the Ofsted report does is it highlights our determination in delivery of this. There was one area for improvement noted, and we shouldn't shy away from it, and we certainly aren't going to, which is oversight of arrangements when care leavers move in or out of emergency or temporary accommodation. And this is an area I know I'll be working with my colleague Graham Carr-Jones in the area of housing, our colleague, to ensure that we do everything we possibly can. I'm absolutely delighted with the report. I could wax lyrical for days on it. It really is the most positive of news, but I'd be very happy to take questions from colleagues.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Before I open up to the Cabinet, I would like to give the opportunity for non-executive members to comment. There is one in the chat bar. David Taylor.
I would like to express my absolute proudness and pride of what you have achieved, and to be part of the Foster Panel team, which I am, I cannot congratulate you enough for what you've done. It is an outstanding report and it shows that Dorset is flying the flag well high, and I'm really impressed. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, David. I don't see any other non-cabinet members wishing to speak, so I'm going to go into the Cabinet now. And I'm going to invite Laura Miller. Laura.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Andrew. I think this is absolutely wonderful, and an absolute credit to you and Teresa and to all of your teams. Now, I've got a son at primary school, and could you make this come alive a bit for parents that might be watching this? What you've read through the sort of Ofsted speak, and we as colleagues understand what that means, but if you're a parent watching this, what does that actually mean for your kids?
Sure. I'm sure Teresa will also want to speak on this area, but from my perspective, it really does show that the formation of effective policies help transform lives of children and young people and support our families in a way that perhaps previously we were unable to do or didn't succeed in the delivery of, particularly in our predecessor authorities. And that's why it's so exciting for us. The other point I would say is it's not the end of the journey for us. We continue to have that ambition. We absolutely are. And it's wonderful that we now have our partners, partner agencies, our staff, all corralling around the idea of how do we make this an even better place for children and young people to be and to thrive. But it would be wrong of me to hog all the limelight today on this matter. I really would like Teresa to speak from an operational point of view.
Over to you, Teresa.
Thank you, Councillor Parry, and thank you, Councillor Miller. A really helpful question. And actually, Ofsted send a letter to us when they send the report, which is for children and families who they've been involved with and who we're working with. And there was an intro to that letter, which is written for children, which is really helpful, I think, which said that sadly, over many years, Dorset County Council hadn't understood well enough what children in the area needed. and they felt very confident that Dorset Council understood very well and were leading both with their wallets, if I'm honest, in terms of how that's been looking in around investment, about capital and investment in revenue, but more importantly, leading with your hearts. And so a real sense that actually what families in the county need to know is that the people of Dorset Council, members and officers, and our partners understand wholly that life is tough for many families. And we know that this week, it's a very difficult week actually to in any way talk about a celebration of service when we as a nation are experiencing some real challenges. But what we know as a county is that we hold that very, very important responsibility to support our children to have good life outcomes, whether that's health, education, emotional well-being, or safety outcomes, and that we work together really effectively. And Ofsted, in that children's letter, described there was a line in the sand drawn against the past, and that actually our future is a much brighter one. But as Councillor Parry rightly says, we have much more to do, but we are confident in doing it because of the backing of the Council, of the Cabinet, and so many Cabinet members who have worked together in all manner of different ways to deliver this good and outstanding report. I'm incredibly grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you very much, Laura. Peter Wharf.
Thank you, Leader. Can I ask Councillor Parry, Andrew, to ensure that our praise goes to all of the staff from every single member, because the members I've talked to are all delighted about this, and I think whilst we're absolutely delighted for the parents and the children, I think we need to say thank you to the team who've made this happen. And can I ask you to make sure that those thanks are passed from every single member of this council to the team? Thank you.
Well said, Peter.
Absolutely, and very much I will ensure that is part of a very good celebratory message around good work, because that is what we have said we are celebrating, and we will.
Quite right. Thank you very much, Andrew. Jill Haynes.
Thank you, Leader. I'm Jill Haynes. I have the portfolio for corporate development and transformation. Andrew, we were talking a little earlier about how this change that we've managed to instigate in Dorset Council has really motivated the staff down to a very low level, that they're all involved in this change that we've managed to make here, which is fantastic news. And I just wanted, could you just give us a bit more of an idea how this is rolling out, how we're managing to join this up across the council, because I think this is exactly the sort of motivation we need for our staff across the whole area. Yeah. So a bit more in that. Oh, perhaps Teresa. Thank you.
Thank you. I certainly from a political standpoint, you will know I'm very passionate in the area of looking at transitions, which were for far too long that space between 18 and 25. Does it sit in children's? Does it sit in adults? There have been some terrible mismatches in the past and all the rest of it. That transformational work in that space is something we need to do. And one of the things that Peter and Wharf and I agreed was that we would seek the support of a lead member in this area, which is Councillor Jane Somper, will lead in the area of transformation, so that she can report to both Peter and I on this particular area, because it's so important that we get that right. And I know that we've approached the Transformation Board for funding and other things to help us in this journey. But we want our children and young people to arrive in settled adulthood. And that means we can't work in silos. We have to have a joined up approach. And the success and cultural change that we've seen and the new culture we've seen in children's services, that has to flow through. Otherwise, the lives of our young people will feel unbalanced when they arrive in the services of adults. And that's where we don't want them to be. So really good things going on in that area. And I do hope that we can demonstrate effectively.
Could be actually some lessons learned from this, don't you? That actually how we motivate staff and get everybody working as a big team. I think there's definitely something that is worth looking at for us.
Very much so. I think it was Richard Branson, wasn't it, who said, don't worry about your customers, worry about your staff, look after your staff and they'll look after your customers. And there's a little bit of that I understand. I do worry incredibly about our children and young people, as you well know. But equally, a lot of our fate is placed in the professionalism and skills of our staff, and we need that culture to be running throughout the council, be in every single directorate, because that's exactly what we want to see.
Well, I think it's worth adding to that this is an example of the culture that's running through the council. It's manifested itself in a brilliant outcome for us in being inspected by Ofsted, and there's lots of other fabulous work being done by colleagues across all the services of the council as we embrace the change in our ethos and our culture, because we realise we have to change. We are changing. There's still things being changed, and I know Peter's heavily involved with adult social care, where there will be a need for some transformation in there and in other services to bring us to the same. You've set standard here. You know, you didn't do it for that reason, but it's something for us all to be motivated around. So it's brilliant. Thank you, Jill. Ray Bryan.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, Andrew, you want to say something else?
I was going to say whether Teresa wanted to come in on this stage.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Parry, and Councillor Haynes, thank you so much. I think that I know exactly what you're referring to, and I would absolutely want to reassure colleagues that I think that as we're at this stage of review at an end of the year, it always feels to me like it's a good time to kind of sit back and take stock, and so these things have come together at a very good time. And I think the stock that we're taking is very much around our job as officers is to deliver your policy, and your policy is around improving the lives of the people in Dorset in every single day, in every single way that we can. And as a senior leadership team, as a corporate leadership team, and all the way down through the organisation, I see and hear every day that one team approach to making sure that we take that policy driver from you, which says actually let's do everything we can to make it easier for our families, our older people, to get the support they need, whether that's around having their bin emptied on time, their care package supported, or their early education in how to parent a baby. We are going to see that really, I think, take place now. I think there's we're young council, but absolutely a huge amount of opportunity with that one team approach across the whole of the organisation. We know from the awards last week that we have fantastic employees all over the council, and lots of that opportunity to see how we work together. It's a difficult time to be working in the public sector, and we need to put more joy back into our workforce. And at a time when we're probably all a little bit tired, that's a challenge. But I think if we together as a cabinet and as a workforce can go on making sure that we live those corporate behaviours of respect and collaboration and recognition, responsibility, particularly the recognition one, it can take people a long way. So thank you for that this morning.
Well said. Ray.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. First of all, congratulations to Andrew, Teresa and the team for this absolutely fantastic achievement. 2 points I'd like to raise is one, the forward thinking, and we need to obviously both maintain and improve what we've achieved, as good as it is. I know, knowing you, Andrew, you're never satisfied. You will strive for even better performance, and I congratulate you on that. Spencer stole my thunder a little bit, because what I was going to mention was the fact that what members of the public don't see is the amount of work that goes into getting this sort of achievement. As portfolio holder for Highways, Travel and the Environment, I work closely with your team on trying to get better forms of travel for the children going to school, and there's a fantastic amount of work going on this at the moment. So I want the members of the public to realise that whilst we're very satisfied with what we've achieved, there's still lots of work for us to do, and bear with us. Give us the opportunity to deliver during the rest of this electoral period some of the things that we really do want to deliver, and I just hope that we'll just go from best to even better, because that's what I strive for, and I know, Andrew, that this is what you strive for, and every other cabinet member that I have connections with. I mean, if we look at adult services, they're making tremendous steps forward on delivering things for the residents that rely on us. So congratulations to the team, and as always, there's an offer of help on anything that I can help with going forward. Well done.
Thank you, Ray. Final word, Andrew?
Very much so. Well, thank you to Ray for those comments, and yes, of course, he is right that I, by my very nature, am somebody who isn't content to rest on our laurels. If we can do something better and do push our boundaries and our challenges and everything else, we can rise to the challenge. We can push our boundaries. We can exceed where we possibly can. Of course, I would want to do that. That's very much in my nature, and it's very much the message that we have to our children and young people. Strive to be the best you possibly can be. I thank everybody who has helped deliver this result for us. Yes, we set out with a very strong message that we wanted to deliver good and outstanding services to the children and young people of Dorset, and that has been recognised by Ofsted, and that's a very significant place for us to be. I still also say, and I'm going to stand in the political arena here, that we cannot do that on our own. We will require things like better settlement from government in how we support children and young people and families in Dorset. We've seen significant improvements from them in areas such as the HAF funding, but I do put that message back out there that we are advocates for Dorset, and we need the support to deliver the very best we can.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Andrew. And it's a message that a bit at the end is a message I give to the MPs and senior officers who are on this meeting this morning will know they've witnessed me giving that strong message about being an advocate for Dorset. And it's very important that Dorset's recognised, and I believe it really is. So I'm optimistic about the future. Let's see how it goes. Now, believe it or not, after all that, we haven't got a decision to make. We need to note this today. Yeah. So, colleagues, you okay to note?
Happy to noted.
Thank you very much. Now we go on to agenda item 9, Household Recycling Centre, HRCs, as they're more commonly known, Vehicle Access Policy. Laura Miller. That was a big build-up, wasn't it?
I know. Thank you very much. It's not quite as exciting as the good with outstanding Ofsted, but I'll do my best. So thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Councillor Laura Miller, Customer and Community Services Cabinet Member. So this report outlines our policy to manage the types of vehicles which can use the household recycling centres, or as we all call them anyway, the tips. It basically is around allowing the legitimate users to access the tip and to limit the potential for commercial waste abuse. And also to minimise congestion, which I think, when we've all had a bit of a clear out of our household stuff when we go to the tip, we could all appreciate a bit of minimised congestion. So the current vehicle access policy, we've had it in operation for 11 years. It's got just over 4,000 live permits. And we feel that the way that we use our vehicles, our vehicle ownership, it's changed, but the policy hasn't, and it hasn't really evolved. So we've done some public consultation, we've got some feedback from officers, and we feel that some aspects of the policy don't really meet the needs of our residents. So this paper is all about refreshing, updating the restrictions, how we operate and how we manage our vehicle access to the tip. I really shouldn't keep calling it the tip, but that's how we all know it. So it's important to say these changes have gone through the Place and Resources Overview Committee. In section 14, you'll see their recommendations, and we've acknowledged those recommendations. We are asking that the Cabinet now acknowledge the recommendation. Cross-party Place and Resources Overview Committee gave this a really good going over on the 19th of October. And I thank them for that. It's really helpful. It's really good to get it all kind of get right into the detail, and they really did that, so I'm grateful. So we've got the recommendations in front of you, colleagues. I'll run through them quickly. That we review and acknowledge the recommendation from the Place and Resources Overview Committee and approve the following changes to the HRC vehicle access policy. And those are that, number 1, sole vehicle visits are limited to 12 visits per year. This is currently unlimited. So sole vehicles are where there's only one vehicle belonging to a household, and this vehicle requires a permit. And there's a helpful infographic in the report which shows which vehicles require permits. And that can't be commercially registered or sign written. Number 2, that weekend access for limited entry permits is allowed, and increased visits to 6 per year. I think that is particularly helpful. That dual crew cab pickup type vehicles are added to the needs of permit list, and that an annual declaration for permit renewal is required rather than automatic renewal. So these changes will be implemented from the 1st of April. There will be full communication with residents, so everyone should know what's going on and what updates are needed. As I said, that infographic is really helpful if you need to refer to it. And the recommendations are there for you, colleagues. Thank you, and thank you very much as well to Ian Manley for a really good, really detailed piece of work.
Thank you very much, Laura. We got Paul Kimber before I open up to the cabinet. Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Spencer, and thank you, Laura. Can you just take me to, I mean, many people, obviously, when they're doing the house up, and I've got the builders in at the moment, so I'm in and out here. And many people, especially young people, like to do the houses up, and obviously the tip is going to be important. So can you talk me through that if there is a lot of waste, how the ordinary person will go about getting rid of it? Obviously, you can organise, obviously, on the
so
island.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry.
Yeah, take it away, Laura.
So Kimber, I think it's difficult to do that because some items of household, if you're doing up your house, some of it will be bulky waste, and some of it, you know, for example, asbestos would need a specific specialised contractor to come in and do that because it's dangerous.
Yeah.
If you, I don't know, Judy, if you could bring up the infographic on the recommendation onto the screen so everyone can see it, the little cartoon with all the cars on it. If you could scroll down to that, there we go. So it's not so much about, you know, if you look, see it says no permit needed, and then the recommended restrictions. So you can just see it's about the types of vehicle that are accessing it. Now, if you've got really, really bulky waste, that's dealt with slightly differently. I don't know if there's any officers that want to come in and clarify that, but this is more around, you know, so if you've got, for example, an estate, then it doesn't change. And if you've got a little van, you can see there, you already need a permit. So those things don't necessarily change. It's just the twin cab pickup type vehicle now requires a permit. And the whole point of this is that if you have a permit, you do have certain types of restrictions that I've just outlined, but it should stop people that are carrying out maybe paid jobs to actually clogging up the tip when they shouldn't be. So that your average householder that you've just described doing a bit of work to their property should actually get better access.
Yeah, okay. Laura,
I'm going to let Ian Manley come in. I think he might want to add to what Laura said. Ian?
Thank you.
I'm also thinking of people dumping stuff everywhere.
Thank you, Leader. Ian Manley, Contracts Team Leader from the Waste Service. I think, yeah, the point raised is an important one to consider. This policy is focused really on vehicles and the types of vehicles, not really the types of waste. So the household recycling centres are still there for people to get rid of their household waste, which is a wide spectrum of different things that they can get rid of, as well as some of the charged items that members will be familiar with. In many ways, the policy seeks to improve the access that is currently out there for people, particularly working people who currently under the existing policy can't use the recycling centres at the weekends or on bank holidays, and also seeks to bring slightly more fairness across the policy as well. So there are many ways that people can deal with materials from DIY jobs. The HLCs are there. There's obviously skips that people can get rid of waste through, but like I say, the policy is mainly focused on the vehicle types, and we see in the majority here an improvement on that. And where we've seek to put the limit of 12 visits per year, we do consider this to be reasonable in comparison to many other authorities around us, and the reason for that mainly is that we've picked up kind of abuse in this area. So where we've said about the sole vehicle, this is only relevant to about 1,900 users at the moment across the whole of Dorset. Hopefully that helps provide some.
Very helpful, Ian. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right, I've got Shane Bartlett. Shane.
Thank you, Chairman. Just before I speak to Councillor Miller, can I just have your indulgence to thank Councillor Parry and congratulate him and his team on the Wimborne First School and the SEND provision. I'm sorry I couldn't get my RTS into the chat bar quick enough before you moved to Cabinet, but I think it needs commending. It's a really brilliant and exciting project on that SEND provision in that school. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Miller, yes. Could I just refer you to page 85 in the report at 14.3? I couldn't see anything else in the report, and it says request for support for town and parish councils and other community groups for waste users, and this come out of the overview committee. And it says then after that as a point that it says this matter is considered out of scope of the report, but will be addressed between members and officers. And I'm not quite sure what that means because I couldn't see anything else in the report. And I think it's well known within this authority my support for the partnership working with town and parish councils, being a town councillor myself, as are many of our members in the chamber. And those of us with towns that have got ground maintenance teams, often they're doing work in and around the area, often on behalf of Dorset Council, not necessarily with Dorset Council permission, but they're picking up storm damage. Sometimes they're verge cutting because the teams haven't got to it and we're in a high growth period or something like that. And I would really hope that we're going to give some sort of arrangement to allow town and parish councils to use HRC sites.
Yeah, thank you, Shane. You're quite right to draw attention to this. And it's interesting because the reason that point is in the report is because it's not relevant to the report, but because it was raised at the committee. So you're absolutely right to draw attention to it. This report and this recommendation, as Ian have said, deals with the vehicle access. And the reason it says it will be considered by members outside this committee is that we will, and I will have a conversation with you outside of this meeting. I know since I took over the portfolio recently that there have been several kind of requests coming in from various community groups and town and parish councils around how we work and how we access waste disposal of, perhaps charity events and perhaps the work that you describe. So I don't want to sort of confuse the issue for this report, but I'm very happy to have a conversation about it with officers going forward.
And you'll okay, Shane. Sorry, we'll have a conversation outside this meeting. Did you say?
Yeah, because it's not, as you said, and you understand it's not part of this report, but it's a good point that's been made. It's something you can deal with beyond today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are any other non-cabinet members wishing to speak, so I'll open up to the cabinet. Remind everybody that Laura's delivered the report, set out the recommendations. If nobody's got any additional questions to Laura, are you minded to support the recommendations as set out in the report?
Support.
There you are, Laura, you've got your support.
Thank you very much. Lisa,
okay.
A quick question. Do I need to read out the minded to decision?
No, because we've got that. I've helped you by preempting that because you've actually read the recommendations.
I read the recommendations.
Applied the, yes, we're done. We're good.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody.
Move on to agenda item 10 now, which is the future revenue and benefits service provision for Dorset Council. I'll hand over to Gary Suttle.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, good morning. I'm Councillor Gary Suttle, Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Finance, Commercial and Capital Strategy. And one of my areas of responsibility as Portfolio Holder is the administration of the Revenues and Benefits Service. The situation we're considering is the administration of the policies, not the policies themselves. That's for full council to decide. Following LGR, Dorset Council finds itself with two separate teams administering revenues and benefits for Dorset Council. We have an in-house team based at County Hall, supporting the Weymouth and Portland, West Dorset and Purbeck areas, and a partnership arrangement with BCP Council to provide services to North Dorset and East Dorset, known as the SVPP, Stour Valley and Poole Partnership. Two separate teams running two services, applying the same policies. I believe it's confusing to the public. We didn't look at this issue through LGR because we didn't want to disrupt a vital service. And then, of course, the pandemic came along and delayed us further. So now is the time to address the issue. And we're considering two options. One, an in-house team where Dorset Council provides the service to Dorset Council residents, East and North, to join on to our existing service. Or two, a joint team for Dorset as a whole, BCP would be overseen by a joint committee. Essentially, we would transfer Weymouth and Portland, West Dorset and Berwick into SVPP and add in Bournemouth too. Each proposal has its merits, and both are better than the existing arrangements. But the recommendation to Cabinet is that we go for the in-house model. And that's based on several main points, and these are cost effectiveness, flexibility and responsiveness, opportunity for further integration with our own services, and ultimately it's a strategic fit. Fundamentally, this is about Dorset Council having direct control over a crucial administrative service. And I really want to emphasise 2 points. One, the fact that we are laying out a preferred direction of travel is in no way a reflection of poor performance of either SVPP or the Dorset Council team. Both are excellent. We just know we've got as far as we can with the existing model. Two, this is a sensitive topic for colleagues in SVPP and Dorset Council teams. They've had uncertainty hanging over them for a number of years, and despite that, have performed magnificently throughout the pandemic, distributing business grants in addition to the day job. And we need to be just mindful of that and sensitive in our discussions. BCP themselves will be considering their own options at a January Cabinet meeting. I'd like to thank all those who've been involved in this report, not just the authors, but also all those behind the scenes who patiently waited for a Cabinet decision. And I know how hard this has been, but I thank you for it. I want to conclude my introduction by showing you a 5-minute video about our thinking of a customer account. This is the direction we want to go. We think we can get there quicker if we have in-house systems and teams. So hold on to your hats. It's a pacey presentation. Hopefully we'll start any second. Here we go. Don't seem to have any sound, Judy. Judy, you're on. It's on mute.
Yeah, it's on mute at the moment.
Please. Hello.
Sorry, I'll just try again.
Yeah, best to restart, I think. It's still on mute at the moment.
Sorry about this, everybody. It's still on mute.
Not allowing itself to come off mute, is it?
Yes. Bear in mind.
Sorry, I don't know why I can't get it from off mute. I'll try once more. Sorry.
Julie, it's Kate. Do you want to just try unloading it and then reloading it and see if it likes it then? Apologies, Chairman, but we did practice before the start of the meeting and it did work. So I'm not quite sure why it's not working now.
Aidan's offering to broadcast if necessary.
Yeah, that might be worth a try, Aidan, if it's not too difficult.
Okay, I'll have a go. Bear with me 2 seconds.
What could a customer account do?
Here we go. Well done.
The way we and our customers interact. Now, this is how things work now. This is our customer, and they come to us with inquiries, and we try to make solutions for them quick and easy. Individually, the solutions may work, but when we put them side by side, we have to wonder if we've really understood our customers. Here's what I mean. Here, our customer wants to know what bins to put out, so we send them to the website and they add their property details to My Local. This gives them information relevant to their area, including waste schedules. So far, so good. But for roadworks close to their home, this isn't covered by My Local. They need to visit Travel Dorset and put in their details again. And if they've reported a pothole in their road and wanted an update, we again send them somewhere else, and they need to remember their original report reference number. The system doesn't join the dots for them. Already there's some disconnect. But looking further, if they then wanted to know something more personal, like council tax charges, they could provide more details and log into their account. But for other personal information, like a planning update, we move the goalposts again by pushing them out to a national portal where they have to log in there instead. Also, often for customers to simply check if teams have received paperwork, the only option is to call. And whilst it's easy to sign up to newsletters online, to unsubscribe to some, you have to email. And a final example, for general information like checking if weather is likely to affect waste rounds, we recommend social media, where we know comms push out up-to-date news. This is what our customers face, different places, processes and channels to resolve basic inquiries. This isn't designed holistically, it's designed to resolve individual inquiries with individual departments. Nothing demonstrates this disconnect between departments more than the number of customer records in our systems. In just 14 of our main systems, we have around 1.6 million customer records, with a population of 375,000. This means, on average, every Dorset Council resident, both adults and children, have their personal details stored over 4 times in separate systems. That's 4 times the effort for the customer and 4 times the data risk for us. So we've designed solutions as departments, but during recent engagement, one customer tellingly said, "I don't see different departments, I just see the council." If customers see just one council, and we profess to be one council, we need to design our solutions as one council. This is where the customer account comes in, and here's how it could work. The account would have various functions, all ready to work when needed. So when customers have issues affecting their road or waste collections, they visit the account. There they can set alerts, and we can send information to them via text or email. They want a text reminder for what bins to put out every week at 6 p.m. the day before? No problem. This means they don't even need to go to their account each time. If they've asked us to, we'll send them the information they need automatically. For updates on existing cases like planning or that pothole, the account can hold real-time information. So when teams complete a process in their back office system, information can be pulled to the customer account. Customers then don't need to chase. They can see the progress for themselves. Yes, it's better for the customer, but it also reduces hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of unnecessary contact. Although it may require an extra level of authentication, more sensitive information like council tax details is also there. If the service is adopted the same platform as the account, it's easy to share information between systems, but we can also extract it from a separate system if we need to. This would be the same for other services too, like social care, schools, elections, etc., etc. To check if paperwork's been received, although there's case updates, there's also a store for any documents the customers uploaded or sent. As well as when and what documents they've sent, they can also see any letters and correspondence the council sent them. This means they no longer need to keep paper versions. Everything's kept in digital format as part of their account. And as for newsletters, just like the alerts, customers choose what they receive and can unsubscribe anytime. But what if customers can't access their account? Perhaps their internet's down, or maybe they don't like self-serve. Then there is another way, and it's already in place: customer services. When customers call about something like waste collections, regardless of whether the caller usually self-serves, the customer services officer can create or access any account and provide an assisted digital service. Equally, the customer could go into a face-to-face location, and the same applies. To keep track, regardless of how the customer contacts us, it's all stored in their account, and there's no need to remember the when, where, or who. It's all there. This moves us towards one version of the truth, one version of the customer, a golden record. Aside from handling customer inquiries, the account can still do more in the background. Because the customer's data is all in one place, we can start to use it more intelligently. Instead of asking the customer to repeatedly provide ID, if we already have it, we don't ask again. And if a process asks for proof of address, if the customer is already on our council tax or election systems, we don't ask. But there's still more the account can do. It can interpret information it knows about the customer to make recommendations. For example, if the customer's been approved for a blue badge because of a physical condition, the account could recommend mobility adaptations around the home. This links directly to early help principles in adult social care. Following engagement, users suggested that a nudge don't pester approach should be applied. So we wouldn't necessarily send a recommendation via email or text, but they'd be available to the customer the next time they logged in. So this is what an account can do. There's plenty to consider before we go live, like security, linking systems, third-party users, and much more. We also need to accept that it won't be able to do all of this on day one. It's something we'll build over a longer period. But the customer account has the potential to improve our services and the customer experience. One customer account for one council.
Thank you very much. Well done, Aidan. Thanks for coming to the rescue. That was a very interesting piece of Gary, is there anything else you want to add at this point?
No, I don't think so, Spencer. I think that it's self-explanatory. You can see the huge duplication that's taking place at the moment. Over 1.5 million records for 375,000 people. And we have an opportunity here to do what people actually want us to do. Most complaints start with, I phoned and I had to give my name. They passed me on to someone else who wanted my name, to someone else who wanted my name. This won't happen. This is an opportunity here to streamline and make things better for residents. And I hope that we'll be able to take it.
Thank you very much, Gary. Now, I've got a couple of colleagues that are not on the cabinet who wish to speak. The first one is Andrew Starr. Andrew.
Thank you, Leader. I'm on the SVPP joint panel, and this obviously came before us. And the recommendation was for Dorset, for the two councils to join in together. Now I understand that, of course, that committee was run by the BCP, so they didn't really see it from Dorset's perspective, and I'm quite interested and intrigued by this idea of the proper account, which does look very promising. But the thing that concerns me, that it was said that under the terms of SVPP being set up, whichever of the parties decided to leave would have to pay the costs of the other parties, and that cost was quite considerable. £1,665,000 according to the BCP. Now, obviously, that may be, you can negotiate that down, but where are we with that, and will we have to pay any compensation to BCPP at all? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Andrew. I'll open that question up. Do you want to take it, Gary, or do you want Aidan to come in?
I don't mind. I'm happy to make some comments.
Take it then. Yes, please.
That's Aidan. That is correct, Andrew. There is the possibility that could be invoked, but bear in mind these were old rules under previous district councils joining together, not under LGR. The savings would show that even if we were to pay the full amount, we would recover this within just over 2 years, and those savings would be forever. I also point out that there is potentially significant cost coming within the SVPP, as they have yet to integrate Bournemouth into their systems, and that would be a significant cost and upgrade of systems which we would be involved with and paying for. This is an opportunity to give Dorset Council residents a significantly improved service. I think you agree that I can only describe it as exciting, because it actually does all those things that everybody complains about so often. And let's not throw that out over the sake of a 2-year payback. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. I think you've put it very well, actually. Okay, Andrew.
Yes, just wanted reassurance that
we're aware.
Has been taken into account. Thank you,
Yeah,
Chair.
we're all over it. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Good question, though. Les Fry.
Morning, Leader. Apologies for earlier, my camera coming on. I had IT problems and IT were in trying to help me resolve them. I'm very supportive of Gary's recommendation in the Aidan's proposal here. I think it's really good. It came before place and overview, was well supported by everybody, with nobody critical of it. And I think that little video that we've all just seen really is one of the best ones we've seen for a long time. It sets it all out. It's very clear and shows the benefit for the people of Dorset, which is what we're all there to serve. So fully supportive of it. Thank you for all those who've done work behind the scenes on it. It's a good recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Les. Paul Kimber.
Yeah, thank you, Spencer, and thanks for the report. I can certainly see the benefits of it, and obviously it's going to be very, very efficient. I want to take you back to a complaint I had some years ago, and it didn't come to anything, but it's a complaint that always is within my history as a councillor. This information, could it be? How secure is our systems? Is it could someone hack in on this? And the other question I have is, could we sell or could we pass on information? That I think the public needs to be reassured on. Thank you.
I'll be told it's not quite linked to the report, Paul, but I will get someone to respond to you.
Okay, thank you.
That's no problem. Aidan, you just want to respond to Paul's concerns?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Yes, first of all, the data will be held in Dorset Council systems, and we take our cybersecurity extremely seriously. The audit committee was briefed on this a matter of months ago, and we continue to invest and stay on top of our cybersecurity. And then secondly, there are really strict rules, the GDPR rules, about how we handle data and what we do with that data. And that's having the confidence of the public is at the heart of everything we do, and we're ultra compliant with those GDPR rules. So both issues are something we're very aware of and we take very, very seriously.
Thank you very much, Aidan. Right, Shane Bartlett.
Thank you, Chairman. There's two committees that deal with the Starr Valley Pool Partnership. One is a joint committee that Councillor Starr sits on, and the other one is the Starr Valley Pool Partnership Scrutiny Committee, which I sit on. And as Councillor Starr said, the recommendation from my scrutiny committee was for a pan Dorset with separate front of house services. The joint committee then looked at that, they agreed with us, and that came to Dorset Council as a recommendation from Starr Valley Pool Partnership, both committees. The overview committee thought differently, and they've passed this on to you for your recommendation. A great deal's been made of the GDPR and the cyber securities over it. That's what's being used to drive this. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think that the Starr Valley Pool Partnership, I've sat on that since 2015. It has performed extremely well, always come under budget, and has been an exemplary system that's been used to deliver revenues and benefits to the former Christchurch, East Dorset and Poole area. And I've got a concern about this. I think that a economies of scale approach is the right approach, and I believe that it would have been better if we'd gone for the pan Dorset model. I realise that's not going to change. You've got the recommendation in front of you, but it would be remiss of me within my scrutiny head on not to make my concerns known, and we'll see where we are in 3 years' time. I also would also add that there is also an additional cost here that I'm not convinced that it's negotiable. The golden handcuff clause that's in there for in excess of 1.6 million, and also there's going to be an additional need for officers to be employed to operate just a solely Dorset model. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Shane. Anyone want to comment on Shane? If not, I'll go into the debate.
Can I just say that obviously the additional staffing costs are within our calculations. I really do. I mean, I've spoken to Shane about this. I understand his concerns. He knows that this is about delivery. I'm also, when I do the recommendations later on, you'll see how we've increased the scrutiny and the overview roles here, so that we get proper reporting and ensure that it delivers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shane. Right, first cabinet members, Laura Miller. Laura.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Gary. I would just like to, with my customer services cabinet role hat on, express my support for this. The beginning of that video that we've shared actually makes me sort of slightly twitchy, because I think of all our officers who are desperately trying to give a good, an excellent, if we can, customer service to our residents. And who are dealing with all those different systems, and not one of our officers wants to say to a resident, actually, can you call this number, or actually, can you, no, I don't have access to that, and can I take your ID again, and actually, no, I can't deal with that, sorry. Some complaints that we get in, some complaints that I get directly into my inbox around, I was already angry, I then had to tell my story about my problem 3 or 4 times, that made me slightly more angry. We all know that experience of, hanging on the phone and then having to tell our story again to a different department. And so really, just from a customer services perspective, I think that this is a positive move forward. And I think, you know, Gary, you were very careful to say, you know, it's not about the performance of SVPP, and it's not about anything to do with that. It is literally about how can we make our customers experience the best experience that it can be. Because people aren't contacting us to have a lovely chat a lot of the time. They're contacting us because they've got an issue that needs fixing, and they just see the council, as you said, and they would like the council to fix it. They don't care which bit. So I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Laura. Ray Bryan.
Thanks, Laura.
Yes, thank you, leader. I was an ex-chairman of the SVPP in the early days of East Dorset, and was very proud of what they did. And I've looked at this, and it has my full support, and it has my support because this is the council moving forward into a new era. And we've got to remember that there were lots of things that we inherited that weren't quite right for the needs of the new council, and this is one of them. Laura has presented very well the case for customer service, and like her, I receive a number of complaints from people who feel they're passed from pillar to post. If this works correctly, and I have every confidence that it will, if we have to pay the price, it's a small price to pay for delivering a better service for the people that rely on us to give them the best service available. So it has my full support, and I never thought I'd be saying this, but it's time that we move forward and got away from some of the old areas, and this is one of many to come. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Ray. Andrew Parry.
Thank you. Very much echoing Ray's comments there. I am pleased that that we have spoken at some length about our support for the staff that work inside the SVPP. That does really matter on the SVPP. That really does matter that we take them through that transformation and transition journey. But I think also we have to recognise that as successful as the work is of that particular partnership, it was a model designed around district and county councils primarily. And that ceased in 2019. It had run its course, and as part of that, we do have to find ourselves in that new era of local government as part of being a unitary authority. And what Gary has set out for us here is a very clear vision of how that will be delivered in the best interest of Dorset Council residents. So,
thank you very much, Andrew. If I was going to do a summary, I'll be very close to what you've just said. I can't see any other colleagues wishing to speak at the moment, so while I'm speaking, I will say a couple of words about this. I fully support this. We've embraced transformation when we became a new council. Local government reorganisation needs transformation for us to get the best out of it for the people of Dorset. This is yet another stage of that. No disrespects to what we had before, it worked well, and in fact I go back long enough in local government to have been involved in the initial Starr Valley partnership of Christchurch, North Dorset and East Dorset. That was district councils coming together, making a difference. At that scale was fabulous. We got to move on. We're at a different scale now, and I thought the video set it out extremely well. All the additional benefits we can gain from having a common database, let alone the service that we're bringing together as one. So I understand the emotions about the past, and I respect those, but we have to think about the future. This is the future, and I think it's the right approach to take. Cabinet colleagues, anybody else wishing to comment? If not, I'm going to revert to Gary. I'm not expecting you to read every word, Gary, in the report. Colleagues have seen it, but you might just want to mention a slight change to the recommendations at the end around splitting overview and scrutiny because they have different roles. Do you want to do that now? I don't see anybody else wishing to speak, so we'll draw it to a conclusion then.
Yeah, so from that, I assume a minded.
I'll do that. Just set your thing out, and I'll ask in a minute for you.
So thanks for showing the video. I think that it demonstrates one big thing, and that is lots of people's criticism of LGR was you're taking yourselves away from us. This will give them the complete opposite. This will enable them to interact with council better than ever before. So, as you've said, we are going to split this. I now have 4 recommendations which I'm going to put to you. So, A, the Dorset Council makes the necessary arrangements to leave the Stour Valley and Pool Partnership and bring those services in-house to be delivered by an expanded Dorset Council Revenues and Benefits team as set out in the business case attached at Appendix 3 of the report. B, that the authority be delegated to the Executive Director of Corporate Development in consultation with the portfolio holder for finance, commercial and capital strategy to implement recommendation A above, including authority to give notice to terminate the council's involvement in the Stour Valley and Pool Partnership. C, and these are the additional bits, that the Place and Resources Overview Committee be asked to support the portfolio holder in identifying service development and transformational opportunities as a result of integrating the service into Dorset Council. And most importantly, I think D, the Place and Resources Scrutiny Committee be asked to review the council's success in achieving the benefits of both integration and further service development and transformation.
Thank you very much, Gary. Well, colleagues, some of you have contributed to the debate and asked questions and shown full support for this. Given what Gary said, the video and the recommendations, are you minded to support?
Support.
Agreed.
Gary, you have the support for your recommendation. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Let's move on to agenda item 11 now. Southwarks House options for future use. Tony Ferrari.
Thank you, Leader. We brought forward a paper about Southwarks House to the April Cabinet in which we said we had options that we were taking forward, but we would continue to seek other improved uses for the property. This is the most extensive options appraisal that I think I've ever seen for a building in local government, and I've been doing this a long time. We looked at central government departments, NHS, doctors' surgeries, educational establishments, care homes, office accommodation, a whole raft of options. And after that April Cabinet Day, a round of funding appeared from central government that created a new opportunity for us. The central government provided the NHS with a line of funding that was to address short-term clinical backlogs, and we worked with our colleagues in the NHS to put in the temporary facilities that we put into Southwarks House, where they are now dealing with a number of those issues with the public. That created a platform for us, which we took forward, and we've looked at a longer-term usage of the building by the NHS, and that's the core of the paper that I'm bringing forward today, that we should grant a 20-year lease to the NHS for use of the Southwarks House. On one level, it's a really valuable contribution to the healthcare within Dorset County. It allows the NHS to free up space that they can put more clinical services in by moving their offices into Southwarks House. From an economic regeneration perspective, it would bring a very large number of high quality jobs into Dorchester. Other options would have created jobs, but this creates a very large number, non-seasonal, all year round jobs that would benefit the local economy enormously. The proposal itself has not been through the NHS approval process because they have a series of boards that they need to take it through. So the recommendation is noting that this will go ahead, assuming the NHS agree through their decision process by March next year. And if that decision falls away for any reason, we will proceed with the other options that are available to us. So I heartily recommend this recommendation. It's a really good news story. Unlike North Quay in Weymouth, this is a council with a surplus head office building, rapidly bringing it back into economic contribution for the community that it's set in, and I'd recommend it strongly to Cabinet. And I'd also welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. Well, we've got one question from a non-Cabinet member, Les Fry.
Yeah, morning, Spencer. It's not so much a question, but more of a comment that I support what Tony has just said. Councillor Ferrari has said, I think this would be a good use of the building, bringing it back into active use, good for the community, good for the town, and good all the way round. And also, obviously, Dorset Council gets the revenue back in from it. So I look forward and hope this will progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Les. I've got Brian Heatley. Brian.
Thank you, Leader. I fully support this use of Southwark's house, but my point is a completely different one and not really about that paper itself. There's something about this paper and the paper before it which are unusual. They're both papers that set quite explicitly different options to Cabinet to make its decision. I welcome that. I think it's a big move towards a much more open democracy in this council. We have too many papers that have glide smoothly to a single conclusion that is written up as the best of all possible worlds, which leave people like me thinking, what else is it that Dorset Council could do? So I really welcome these two papers, and I'd love to see you being a bit bolder this way in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I note what you say. Shane Bartlett.
Thank you, Chairman. And I might be a bit early in this question because I'm not sure if the discussions have taken place yet. But in terms of the 20-year lease, what are the break lease clause options in that lease arrangement? Do we know yet?
Yeah, well, I think Tony can reply.
There's 15-year break in the agreement.
First one will be up to 15 years.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Well, you've got them into silence, Tony, because you've got no colleagues on the cabinet wishing to ask you a question that I can see anywhere. Oh, are you asking a question on this one, Ray, or not? Was that on the previous paper?
Not on this one, no.
Okay.
But you've got Andrew Parry and Jill Haynes.
Andrew. Yep, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I think really my question here is one about engagement with ward members, because we do want to take a one council approach on this. Tony, have you had the opportunity to brief, because I appreciate there are different political persuasions across Dorchester that represent the town and everything else. Have you had opportunity to brief and receive support from ward members in respect of using the council facilities for supporting the expansion of the NHS provision in the town?
Well, you've had part of that answer already, Andrew, because Councillor Fry is one of the ward councillors, and yeah. I think from his comment you can take that as to a yes. I personally briefed both of the ward councillors before the event, and both were very supportive of the approach we were taking. And if I can comment on Councillor Heatley's
please do.
Words. What isn't in the public domain but is within the councillor briefing pack is a very detailed analysis of our decision process and all of the options that were. It's commercially confidential because there are a number of partners in there who we would have commercial transactions that we can't reveal in public, but from a councillor perspective there is a much broader pack of data supporting the decision process that all councillors could have seen. Thank you.
Just for clarity, we can be assured that you are sufficiently assured that we will see a one council approach to supporting this policy.
That was the response I got from both of the local councillors. Thank you.
That's really helpful, actually, Tony. Thank you very much for that clarity. Right, I'm going to open up to the Jill. Do you want to comment? I know you said Andrew asked you a question. Was there anything else you want to comment on?
Thank you, Leader. No, that was my only question.
Okie doke. All right, thank you for that. I think you got him into silence here, Tony. So, Tony, would you want to go through your recommendation, please, and then I'll ask members if they're minded to support it.
Certainly, Leader. That Cabinet agree that Dorset Council should grant a 20-year lease to Dorset National Health Service NHS institutions for use of Southwark's house for clinical and office use on terms to be agreed by the Executive Director for Place in consultation with the Cabinet portfolio holder for economic growth, assets and property. 2, to note that the governing boards of the various NHS institutions planning to move into South Hawks House will be making their decisions in February and March 2022. And 3, to agree that officers should immediately commence discussions to proceed with the second ranked option should the NHS institutions decide not to proceed with the lease or are unable to come to a decision by the 31st of March 2022.
Thank you very much, Tony. Well, given what Tony's just set out as his recommendations, Cabinet colleagues, are you minded to support Tony?
Yeah.
Great. You are, Tony. Got your support for your recommendation.
Thank you.
Right. Agenda item 12, Park Home Fees Policy. Laura Miller.
Thank you, Leader. So good morning, everyone. Again, so this is around the fees and charges for park home sites. So the Mobile Homes Act 2013 allows councils to charge for a range of licensing activities on park home sites. In order to do this, we have to have a policy describing how we do this, which is of course right and proper. So going back to LGR, we had 3 former district and borough policies transferred over to Dorset Council, and they were different in the way that the fees were calculated. So this new policy is intended to replace the old policy, introduce one method for calculating the fees, and that will standardise what the sites pay across Dorset for the licensing services that we provide. So earlier this year, the government also introduced some new regulations for the operators of sites, and that meant that they must apply to be accepted on a fit and proper persons register. So that's also that we've included the rules related to applications to that in this policy. So we set fees in this policy for the following activities: fees for new sites, annual fees for existing sites, amendments to licenses, lodging of park rules, and fit and proper person applications. So we need to set out how we calculate our fees, and we've got details of how we do that are set out in the appendix. There's 2 recommendations. The first is that Cabinet approve the policy attached as Appendix 1, and the second recommendation is that Cabinet delegate to the Corporate Director of Housing and Community Safety, in consultation with the portfolio holder for Customer and Community Services, authority to make minor changes to the policy in order that we comply with changes in legislation, or to reflect increases or decreases in the cost of administering the functions described in the policy. Now, this is a report that's been put together by Richard Conway. I understand that he's lurking in the event of any incredibly detailed questions that I might not be able to answer in their fullest extent. But otherwise, Leader and colleagues, I'm very happy to recommend this to Cabinet for debate and hopefully for approval.
Thank you very much, Laura. I'm looking in the chat bar. I don't see any non-Cabinet members wishing to speak, so I'm going to dwell for a couple of seconds. And then I'm going to open it up to the Cabinet. Just say that you've heard Laura's presentation. She set out the recommendations. Any of you wish to speak, or are you minded to support?
Support.
Support.
Right, thank you very much, Laura.
Support.
There you are.
Thank you. So then, following the minded to view.
No, that's it. Done. Job
That's
done.
it done.
Yep, you've had your support.
Fine.
Minded support for
Very
your
much.
decision. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you. Go on to agenda item 13, Cabinet member update. So I'm aware that given the recent changes or about to changes going on around the chairmanships of overview committees, that I've spoken to colleagues, there aren't any updates on this particular item today. So I'm going to go swiftly past that item and go on to agenda item 14, which is the portfolio holder and lead member updates. And I know there are 1 or 2 colleagues who wish to comment on what they put in their report, their updates this month. And I'm going to invite Laura Miller to be the first one to talk about her update. Laura.
Brilliant. Thank you. Just double checking that. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Leader. Yeah, that's brilliant, and I welcome the opportunity actually to just give a brief update and talk to the December report in my portfolio, which is Customer and Community Services. So what have we been doing since the last report? We've had the first of our joint webinars with the DAPTC, which is the Dorset Association of Parish and Town Councils. We held that webinar on our libraries consultation, Let's Talk Libraries. You've probably seen it all over social media. If you haven't, I hope you have, and in our posters in our libraries, because this is a huge consultation for us, and it's been brilliantly promoted by our libraries manager, Liz Crocker. So we did a webinar with DAPTC. It went down really, really well. And we're going to carry on doing those under the title of Working Together, just to make sure that, you know, we're partners and that we keep our town and parish councils properly informed about what Dorset Council is doing. So that's really important. I also went to the DAPTC AGM and some of their quarterly meetings. Really, really interesting, some great feedback, and I'm really enjoying that part of the portfolio. Of course, we had the budget cafe, everybody had the budget cafe. We're also doing a piece of work around customer services with our colleagues to look at how we enhance the support that's available for both officers and members when we're dealing with unreasonable behaviour from some of our residents. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, we need to make sure that we've got a robust challenge to that, because I don't want any of our officers and members to suffer abuse whilst going about their daily jobs, which are actually to help people. So we're doing some work on sort of bulking up that offer and how we manage that, which is going to be really positive. We also looked around, we've done some work around Weymouth Museum, aims for the future, some records management service aims for the future, all around how we store our archives, how we digitise them, some really exciting stuff going on there. Back to the library strategy, we've done loads of communications over that, and we've had some amazing stats come in, nearly 5,000 responses, really, really good engagement. So I'm absolutely chuffed to bits with that on behalf of the teams, because they've worked so hard, and to get that response is just brilliant. We've also taken our air quality draft plan out to consultation, really good responses coming in on that. So I'm really, really pleased about that. And we're looking at shaping the training for our town and parish councils and community organisations on how they apply to have community assets transferred to them. And I'm pleased to say that the online form that you go through, I went through it, and even I could do it. So it really is quite straightforward. And that's a real positive because we need to get that moving. I've also popped out to visit Ferndown, popped out to visit Corfmullen Library. So some really nice getting out into the community stuff going on there. And that's really all I've got to say, Leader, but hopefully that gives you a sort of overview of what customer and community services does. It's really diverse and I'm really enjoying it. So thank you very much.
Good stuff. Good overview. David Walsh.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And to continue in a positive note, after congratulating Councillor Miller on the work that she's doing, I wrote in my October update that we hoped to clear the validation backlog in all areas by the end of December. Well, I was wrong. And I have excellent news for you, because we cleared the validation backlog on the 18th of November. And I'd like to thank everyone across all the departments for their hard work to achieve this. But the backlog baton has now been passed on to the planning application teams. So I would ask people to be patient. We will clear this one as soon as possible, as we did the other. We'll give it every resource we possibly can. We have completed the planning software convergence of all legacy district planning systems, including development management, conservation, trees, building control and local land charges. Only the former county council system remains to be completed early next year. We have now launched our transformation stage. Brilliant news. A fantastic amount of hard work from the transformation team. I can't name them all, but I'd just like to thank them all. And actually I can, because there's Sarah, Lynn and Charlie. And ending on a good note as well, our building control service is performing at an extremely high level and is well regarded by the development industry, reflected in the latest figures, which show a market share of 70% of work in our area, which is phenomenal. The team also partners a number of organisations such as the RNLI for planning inspection work. There is such a lot of good news here. I hope that you can keep in touch with your comms and pass it on to your parish and town councils, though our comms teams are passing that on as well. Just please shout. There's good news at Dorset Council, so shout about it. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, David. Before I let one colleague come in to ask a question or comment, I will let Jill Haynes come in first with an update. Jill?
Speaking now. Hiya.
Right, oh, there you are.
Here I am, yes. Well, I've got a bit of good news too, because I thought we'd have a bit of a good news session on this as we're coming up to Christmas. we have struggled. We have seriously struggled with our searches times, and this is down to a number of reasons. Some of it was because we just didn't have enough staff in the system as we came through into the new council, but some of it has been the huge number of houses. It's not helped by the break that the council gave, the government gave people, so that they weren't paying so much tax as they bought their houses, but also everybody who's been trying to buy a house will know what a terrific boom there has been. So normally we would be running in somewhere in the region of about 500 properties a month that we would do searches on, sometimes going as high as 600. But this summer, really, we've been going 800 to 900. In fact, in October, we did 915 properties. We have, having had a scrutiny review of this, obviously put a plan in place, and we've employed more staff. It took a little while to train them, because it's not a simple matter. It's not just poking a button on a computer and the results appear. It's actually quite a skilled job. But the good news is that we've gone down from search times taking 62 days down to approximately 48 at the moment. Some properties are a little more complex than others, but that is really from the end of October to now. So they've made that much catch up in that time, with those number of properties still being as high as they are coming through the system. So a fantastic job by the staff, and we are reporting back to scrutiny. They had a written report at the last meeting. They'll get another one in January. It's going in the right direction, and I want to thank all of the staff for the hard work in getting this turned around. So, thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Jill. I've just got David Took, and then I'm going to move on. David.
Thank you, Leader. Just a quick question for Councillor Walsh on the validation. Great work, lots of good work been done. But I've noticed that on the portal there are a number of validated applications with no documents available, not even the application. And I'm not sure that that's the way that we would normally expect a validation to proceed. Could David comment on that, please?
Yeah, very briefly, David. Thank you, David.
Well, no, I'm not sure about this. I'll have to go and look into it and then get back to you. I'm sorry if there's items missing on the portal, but I will look into it.
Can you speak to each other separate after the meeting, and so that David Took can tell David Walsh a bit more detail, so we can do some investigation?
Yes, we certainly will.
Okay.
Can I just end on some even better news, Leader? Sorry. Francis Summers, one of our planning officers, has won the Southwest RTPI Young Planner of the Year, and Chris Lee was commended.
Excellent.
Fantastic news. Thank you, Leader.
Snowstorm of good news. Good stuff. Right. Ray, climate change, item 15, climate and ecological advisory panel update.
Yes, thank you, Leader. It's going to be very brief today. You'll be pleased to hear, although it's all good news. We are in the process of appointing the director responsible for climate change. That is ongoing process. The decarbonisation of our buildings is moving ahead at speed. We've included some new projects, primarily schools, as we found we had some money that we could still use. So that is ongoing. Low Carbon Dorset are working extremely hard to make sure we spend all of the European money that we had on low carbon projects. And again, great teamwork there. But I'm going to give you one particular update that I've not given before. I'm working very closely with Tom Munro at the AOMB, and I'm just going to highlight one particular thing. Obviously, I can't go into too much detail, but I think it's important that people understand what we're doing. I've just signed off on a project that will support a group of 4 West Dorset farmers through research and development to set up 6 field trials in hemp growing, harvesting and processing. The reason I raise it is our priorities cover nature, climate, people and place. And on this particular project, 80% of this comes under climate, because obviously what we grow in the fields is essential to the climate issue. So I just thought I'd mention that, Spencer. I'm not going to go into any more details. If anybody wants any more details, just contact me and I'll feed them. So again, good news stories all the way through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ray, for the update. Right, moving on, colleagues, agenda item 6, urgent items. There aren't any urgent items. Oh, I can see Les Fry's just popped up. Go on, Les.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to support what Councillor Bryan has said, and I know that our Dorset Council Farms are doing a lot of work because we have a part to play in climate change across Dorset. We are working at the moment to do some baseline assessing to see where our farms are before we do a lot more work in there. But I'd have a question for Councillor Bryan, because I know there are people watching this meeting, then actually Dorset Council can do a lot, but actually we are a small part of Dorset, and what percentage can we raise is what we can do, is what Dorset Council is responsible for climate change.
Thank you, Les. Ray?
Sadly, it's about 2% of the total Dorset climate change issue, but it's up to us to perform in our own area. And then my plan for the future is we're going to devise ways in which we can help residents help decarbonise their own homes. And obviously, working with Councillor David Walsh, we are hammering central government at the moment to make sure that they change some of the rules that mean house building has to be climate friendly, i.e. free of CO2s. So lots of work still to do, Les, but thanks for your support, as always.
Thank you. And it's the question, the point I wanted you, and which you covered, is actually Dorset Council is responsible for very little of the carbon across Dorset, but we can have an impact and encourage others to make a difference.
We can set a good example, Les.
Yep, absolutely right.
Thank you very much. Right. So there aren't any urgent items, colleagues. We're going to go into exempt business. Can I ask for a proposal, please?
Certainly, Leader. I move the exclusion of the press and the public for the following items in view of the likely disclosure of exempt information within the meaning of paragraph 3 of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972 as amended. I so move. I need a second.
Thank you, Peter.
Happy to second.
Right, great. Seconded, colleagues. Right. Thank you very much, everybody that's observed the meeting today. This meeting is now closed. I'll meet the colleagues on the other side into the exempt business. Cheers. Bye-bye.